Hey everybody, I decided to do a video on this particular topic because of the inevitable criticisms of Obama's budget that are going to be basically saying that he wants to start a class war. I've had this written up for a while, but I thought now is probably the time to make the video. But I'll get to it. The top 10% of income earners own 80% of the wealth in our economy. The bottom 90% of income earners control 26.9% of America's net worth. The top 10% control 73.1% of America's net worth. When adjusted for inflation, the bottom 80% of Americans lose $743 billion yearly, while the top 1% gain $673 billion yearly. In the last 30 years, the wealthiest Americans have seen their earnings increase by over 125%. Meanwhile, the bottom 40% of income earners have seen their paychecks decrease by 15 to 30%. Over the last 2 years, Wall Street profits have increased by 720%. $3.4 trillion has been spent buying toxic assets from wealthy investment bankers. That's about 90% of our yearly federal budget. The budget that pays for Medicare, welfare programs, our roads, our schools. Only 0.6% is given to welfare programs on any given year. $4.1 billion was given to one of the biggest companies, General Electric, in tax rebates. They got this money, and actually they ended up paying no taxes. The rich were taxed at 47.7 under Ronald Reagan. Under the tax cuts passed by Obama in December of 2010, that rate fell to 32.4%. Raising the tax rate back to its 1993 level would chip $4.4 trillion off the deficit every decade. The corporate tax rate is 35%, yet corporate taxes make up less than 8% of government revenue. This is because wealthy corporations can hire the best tax lawyers, have access to lawmakers, and know how to exempt vast sums of money from taxation through loopholes in our current laws. Our capital gains tax is at 15%, and that's only a tax on profit. Let's compare that to a relatively average income tax rate of 25%. If a wealthy businessman invests $50,000 and ends up with $100,000 when he cashes out, he'll pay about $7,500 in taxes. A person earning $100,000 through actual hard work will pay $25,000 in taxes, over 300% more than the Wall Street investor, likely one of the Wall Street investors that royally fucked us over in 2008. Inflation infects all of us, though, and a weak dollar causes runaway inflation partially due to massive amounts of debt. If we restored tax rates to their levels under Bill Clinton, we would save $4.4 trillion every decade. Mentioned that earlier. This would have very little effect on the middle class, but would have the rich pay their taxes more equitably. $2.33 billion would be saved in a decade just by closing corporate tax loopholes and making offshore tax shelters illegal. Enacting a cap-and-trade system to force big corporations to be responsible to the environment would raise an additional $2.47 trillion, and this has been done in California. This has been done in most of Europe. This has been done in Japan and South Korea. Basically, this has been done almost everywhere, and it's worked. An additional $400 billion would be gained from actually ending subsidies to oil companies. The only reason we give subsidies to oil companies is a law from 1914 that has never been changed. Which really makes no sense in today's world. And And just ending these favors to the rich and business elite, the measures I just outlined, we would save $9.6 trillion from our debt, and inflation would be way lower than it is now. So the next time somebody says the next time somebody advocates taxing the rich and you hear somebody say that they want to start a class war, tell them what Warren Buffett said, because Warren Buffett said, guess what? There already is a tax war. The war is from the rich, and it's on everybody else. And we've got to stop this bullshit. Almost all of our problems are coming from basically our politicians being bought outright. And until that changes, nothing will change that will actually benefit you and I. So, hell yeah, let's start a class war. I think I'll title this video "Let's Start a Class War." Speaking of Warren Buffett, he actually, and he knows quite a bit about economic policy since he's one of the richest men on earth. Warren Buffett actually has a wager out there. Anyone who can prove that they pay more than their secretary, he will give, I can't remember the amount, but a lot of money to. And no one has taken him up on this. Because if you're rich, well, first of all, the tax code is written so you can write off more things, and B, you can bend the rules through tax lawyers and tax shelters. So we need to change this, and I don't have much hope of this changing because a 2010 court decision known as Citizens United basically makes it so corporations run American elections. I mean, it's not a Republican issue or a Democratic issue. All politicians are basically run by whoever funds their campaigns. And now they can be donated to on unlimited levels by corporations. And we're already working within a system that is overwhelmingly skewed towards the rich and corporations. So there's going to have to be a real grassroots uprising. I don't see one now. The only supposed grassroots uprising I see now is the Tea Party, which is way too fucking stupid to take this on. Alright, but that's me with my really happy video on the rich basically fucking us over.